And we are recording.
Sweet. So I don't think this needs to go on super long, but for folks that either tune in on Zoom now or later, backing up a little bit, I know one of the big conversations we've had since we moved into the new spot, a bunch of our technical limitations, things like keys, physical keys and whatnot, that kept us from having nights and weekends access have gone away with the new building. So we thought we'd at least open up the conversation. We've had enough people specifically ask about it, as well as even say, hey, this would help me be here more, be more active, or I have friends that would be more involved, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep.
So there's sort of two parts to it that I've been thinking about, and then we'll get into, maybe we'll sort of like go over some of the themes that we noticed in the responses from the surveys that people filled out, because we got like
32 responses.
32 responses, which is awesome. Like that's really fantastic, I feel, and like really good stuff too. Both on like this is what I like, or this is what I'm worried about. So like to everyone who took the time to respond, thank you. The stuff that you wrote was not only really useful, but it was also great to hear that you're thinking about the kind of stuff that we're thinking about. Like there's an incredible amount of thoughtfulness going into this sort of thing, which I think is important.
Yeah.
The technical stuff, I have full confidence we can sort out. It really comes down to how we use digital key cards, how we communicate with people. Those are like the two main things. There's two things I think we need to figure out outside of that. One is the amount, like how often people are going to want to come. We're going to have to kind of play it by ear with that. I think has to do some trial run. And the other is a price point, which is one of the concerns that people brought up. You know, is this going to raise memberships and things like that? I want to figure out a price point that is fair, both to people that want to come in evenings and weekends exclusively, but also that is fair to people that are already paying for membership, including full-time folks. You know, folks are paying for full-time membership, some in part so that they can be here late. So you want to find a way that is equitable. That is an interest of mine, I think, in everybody's. The other thing before we get into this, just to sort of get my thoughts on the table, is I think the harder part of all of that, which is, again, more people brought this up in here than I think anything else, is a concern about how we make sure the communities stay overlapped. I think we've got a good enough, probably better than ever, solid group of folks who are here consistently nights and weekends, including yourself, Chris. So in the past, my concern would have been, you know, people coming in for the evening, but not having any sort of consistent touch point with other members, or folks who are here late from the daytime, see people come in at the end of the day and are like, well, who the hell are you?
Right.
Night Owls creates sort of like a nice little contained box for that, where people who you don't recognize walking in is normal. This is introducing a new normal, which is always an interesting social challenge. So that's why I think that setting some constraints and keeping this simple and small up front is going to be key.
Yeah.
Did I miss anything in terms of like background stuff?
I mean, along those lines with logistics would be like attendance, keeping track of this sort of thing.
Right.
So both the like knowing who's here socially and community-wise, and also hey. Oh no! Yeah, and also knowing who's here for admin logistical purposes.
Right. Actually, that's a good point. Part of the reason that Night Owls is set up the way that it is, and is included in all memberships, basic and up, is so that we don't have to worry about attendance, right? So if there is a certain number of days a month, rather a certain number of nights and weekends sessions, whether they're half days, however we do it, I'm not sure. I want to make it so that we don't have to worry about, basically I want to be able to trust people to self-report on this and give people a really easy way to do it.
Yeah.
I would, something that is worried, where we're worried about abuse, I'd rather set people self-report on it, and if we find that somebody's using it more than they thought they would, we figure it out from there. But I don't want to create a decision now based on a problem that hasn't actually happened yet.
Right. Yeah, and it's all experimenting, so whatever we set up might not be what we stick with for the next
Totally.
couple months. You know?
Exactly. I'm thinking about this. Basically, what I would love to launch. So it's March 17th now. In the next couple of weeks, I would love to be able to announce and launch a pilot of some kind. So the goal of today's conversation is to figure out like what are some of the questions that we have, what are the questions we need to answer, and what are the ones that even coming out of this conversation we don't know yet to answer. So we can go back to Group Buzz, go back to Slack, and have a broader conversation and say, here's what we think we have figured out, but here's what we don't have figured out yet. Let's brainstorm together. How do we make this simple? What do you think of the proposal we have so far? But here's some still outstanding questions, and be able to basically launch a pilot for April or so.
So I think the easiest place to start would be the logistics of like, how would people get in? How would they know they're not going to get locked out? Because you already have thoughts about that.
Well, why don't we, before we even do that, why don't we just like go through some of like the high level like themes and comments from the feedback? Because I think it was really good stuff, and to a degree it reinforces everything we said, but I think it's helpful for folks to know what your peers, what people other than sort of the ops team is thinking about this.
Yeah.
Because it was really, really good stuff. The two main questions that Sam put together the survey was, how would this help you? And do you have any concerns about it? There was also a survey of when you would come in, and then any like general comments, questions, things like that. So I don't know, Sam, you kind of watched these come in. Did you notice any notable themes as you went through? Like what stood out?
I think for the most part, people are excited about flexibility. A lot of parents relating to my last group conversation are really excited about that because having kids and having colds and having all kinds of other stuff, it makes it hard to carve out 9 to 5 time.
Yeah.
And a lot of people commented and were like, I'm already here. And I think the main concerns consisted of things like, I don't want to encourage overwork, which I hadn't even thought about, and I thought that was it's a good thought. It's a good thing to keep in mind. A lot of people were concerned that they wanted to make sure that there would actually be people there, that there'd still be a reason to be at Indy Hall rather than just be at a space. Things like, will there be people here? Will there be less people here during the day because they could be coming at night? And then a couple folks brought up like building stuff, which is that there's no cleaning on the weekends. So are those people going to make sure to take care of our home while they're here on the weekend or here at night after Nazir's come through? Or is it going to be a mess every Monday? Because every Monday there are dishes in the sink already from weekend folks. So how do we make sure that doesn't put any work on the early Monday crew?
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I hadn't even thought about that.
And that was the general thought. It was mostly like dishes and like other stuff around here. Most people didn't really talk about trust, although Earl used the phrase unfavorable characters, which I love. He's like, the vetting process has already been done, which is interesting because that's something to consider is like, who do we have around? How do they all know each other? That sort of thing. But those were the big things, were like making sure that making sure that people know who's around, making sure there's actually people around so that you're not sitting here alone, and the more logistical things of like taking care of this place and how do you get in and out.
And to that end, if I think about someone who's exclusively coming in nights and weekends, we do need to figure out some sort of timing for people to be able to come in and not just get a key, but also like get a tour and all those expectations and things like that, and have them be personally reinforced. So, when we spoke on Wednesday, whatever day it was, you had essentially volunteered to plan to be around a bit more consistently. Nights make sense. Weekends, I think. So the interesting thing here is, I think nights are actually going to be easier. I think weekends are going to be a little bit trickier. At the same time, I think weekends are where a lot of the value is for folks who want to come in and work on like a Saturday morning for a half day or a Saturday afternoon for a half day sort of thing.
So my first thought to approach that is to treat it like night owls, where there's almost like an ambassador, not really staff because they're there to do their work too, but whether that's a like call the ball thing of like, I'm going to be here on Saturday, I'll be that person, or maybe people who want to be here more consistently, that can be their thing. The tricky thing with that is that most of the responses here are just excited about having the flexibility, not always using it, not having to use it. So that a human before they get to work and get online. Yeah, and my other thought is like, how do we set up related but unrelated, just crossover things so that the whole community gets to talk to each other, but that's kind of its own thing.
I think it's definitely a thing to figure out for sure.
I'm hesitant to think about day passes and tours and stuff during the weekends until we've at least established a group of people who've been doing it for a little while.
And I don't think it's even going to be, I don't think we even need to set that as a goal.
Yeah. I mean, we're, always on Indy Hall mode, which is to say welcoming people warmly.
Right.
And that's that. But I wouldn't want to specifically plan for or anticipate people coming in for day passes during that time, because I wouldn't want people to see that community until we've figured it out.
I'm less worried about day passes. I'm more worried about and like we can even do some of the onboarding potentially over like FaceTime or Zoom. Just to give some, like if somebody really can't make it in before 6 p.m. when we go home, is the possibility of like, hey, can you jump on a video chat at 4? We can take you through. It's not the same. At some point in the near future, I want to be able to connect face to face, but I don't want this to hold you up from coming in and getting some work done.
Sure.
We've talked about doing like a video tour more for educational purposes than anything.
Yep.
I still like a face-to-face, but it could be something to just have so that if we need to fire something off, because they're only going to be able to come in Sundays,
Right. It's also like a let's cross that bridge when we get there.
Yeah, yeah.
Like worst case scenario, now it's like, okay, somebody wants to come in. They can be here. Again, we set a boundary, like you got to get here between 5 and 7 so that we can give you a tour and give you your key. It has to happen in person. There has to be somebody here. If you can't do that, then we figure out one of these alternatives.
So we had talked about an application process.
Yeah.
What did you have in mind for that?
Nothing significantly more rigorous than the current key holder process. Remind me what goes into our key holder process now. I know, so the key holder application, like what do we collect on that form?
So we have an online form, which is basically, I believe, name, phone number, email address. I think that's about it.
Yeah.
It's just basically contact information. Then we have the paper form, which is where you get 3 signatures from other key holders that say, I know and trust you. The form has a bunch of information on it. And then once you've turned that form in, you get a tour and you do your introduction and you get your key.
That's right.
So I don't explicitly see, again, until we learn that there is the need for something, anything more rigorous than that. The one thing that we do need is, I think the 3 key holder thing is like such a crucial part of the ritual, but is going to be tougher in this particular context. So we need to come up with something like similar, but that there's a twist. Like,
so maybe if we're looking for, because my thought is like, if I'm coming in and I just want nights and weekends, I'm not ever going to be here during the day because I have a 9-to-5 job. Maybe it's a couple of like very simple hoops to jump through. Like you have to do an introduction, you have to log into Slack. Like obviously we need your contact info, or maybe it's like you have to have a conversation with 3 members. I don't know, like something that's hard to measure, but something where it's like, I'm in preschool mode, but like what friend did you make today?
We could have a small probation period, like, if somebody's only going to come in the nights and weekends, maybe make the key holders aware of that. And like Jason's been trying to use the Here Now channel to get people in. So maybe they don't get a key card on day 1. Maybe they spend a month like just talking to people being let upstairs by whoever happens to be here.
Yeah.
And then,
Because that would force a connection. You would have to link up with someone.
the twist to that is there needs to be somebody consistently here.
So currently I would say I mean, I've never been here at 8 when there's not another person here. Then again, if I do leave before 8, then who knows? So
Right.
maybe there are times when the people are like completely out by 7. I haven't seen that in the past few months, especially since the weather's like
it's rare, I think.
It's like a Friday thing.
Yeah, I think if we're gonna, it's more for me. It's less about does or doesn't happen. It's more about setting an expectation. I guess is like if you come during this time, someone will be here. So here is how you get in.
Yeah.
So given and the sort of like challenge underneath that is other than walking in the door, there's no single communication channel that works for everybody.
Right.
Right. And it's not just our front door, but also the outside front door, right? So I don't know.
I mean, the alternate could be a nights and weekends staff member that the nights and weekends memberships will pay for, which I don't love the separation of those things. But if it's like, we need to make sure folks are, because I do like the probationary period of before you just hand a key.
That's why I want to have a launchpad group. I mean, a group of people who, it's specifically in the survey responses, people who are likely saying, I'm already doing this.
Yeah.
It would just be nice to have more people around.
Yeah.
I want to have some group of people that we know will be able to be reliable and accountable and help out. And if not, hopefully not just one person, but folks who can share that responsibility.
I think just knowing who the roster is might even take some of the pressure off, and maybe if it's the kind of thing where we even create a way for that roster. Again, it's back to that. There's no one way to reach people, but a way for somebody to be like, here's who the potential touch point people are. I'm not sure.
I think I could be wrong about this, but I think perhaps making it a requirement to use one of our communication resources to be a nights and weekends member, it doesn't seem insane to me, because like, yes, it's helpful to have our key holders' email addresses and phone numbers, but that's if they check their email and if they answer phones, like a call that's from an unknown number or something, right? But if we have like a specific Slack or a specific Slack group, or you say like, okay, I'm gonna use GroupBuzz, something so that like we know that we're all on the same page and it's really easy to reach all these people. Because the thing that's concerning me as like an admin person is this is a whole new population of people to chase that I also won't see regularly to chase them in person, probably.
Right.
You're going to suggest it.
Well, hey Sarah. I mean, one of the simple things that we can do, and granted it's not peer-to-peer communication, but in terms of us being able to reach people, right now we have a tag in ConvertKit for sending out like the weekly announcements and stuff. We can send just to key holders. I think we've used it all at once. We can do something that is just for nights and weekends folks, as well as a tag that is like everyone who's got a key, which is all key holders, all nights and weekends. Basically, like making sure that people know that. I think maybe there's some other. Here's a question that we should ask everyone who applies for nights and weekends. Probably everyone who applies for a key. What is the best way to get a hold of you? Right? We've got your email address. We've got your phone number. Is a text message better than an email? Right? I mean, you say that, but at the same time, like it depends, right? But
no, I mean, for me, like if I can make a preference, I'm always like, can I give you a preference?
Yeah. So totally. So maybe that's a simple tweak we can make to what we already have, as well as going forward. That way, when we're chasing people, it's not like, all right, I'm gonna send this email and I hope everyone gets back to me. It can be here's the message we send to text people. Here's the message we send to email people.
I think on the flip side, it would be useful to me to establish that for us as well, because if I'm getting Slacks a whole bunch over the weekend, that might not, for me, that's not going to seem as urgent as if I get a text. If it's like a membership change, please don't Slack me. I'm going to need you to email me anyway, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think having a number, especially during this initial figure it out time, having here's how to, like if you don't know something, obviously if there's people around, ask. And in the worst case scenario that there's not people around, which is literally the worst case scenario we're talking about here, not the worst case scenario the building is burning down, but the worst case scenario is I'm outside and can't get in, no one is answering on Slack, that we have a channel for that.
And I think the Here Now channel, as we have it, is a good start with that too. I mean, yes, having like something more official, but also on a day-to-day basis of like, I'm here if you're locked out, here's the number to text or whatever.
I think just in terms of expectations and just through my own pattern recognition, I think there is a small, and the fact that, you know, if you look at Slack currently represents like roughly 10% of our entire community. It looks and feels active, and the group of people that are in there is active, but it is a very, very small, on like a monthly rotating, that's my ballpark. So who it reaches and who is actually paying attention is relatively small. People that it reaches, obviously it reaches well, and it's super important, but I would almost look at it as a like separate but Venn diagram overlapped group of people. So I think we need to design with that expectation in mind. That's why I think getting people where they are, where we know they're going to be, text messages for super important stuff, but like we have to draw a line in what super important really means, right? I had another thought and I lost it. Shoot. Like, if we take a step back, I think something that was already said is like there's already a solid group of people who are here late, as well as people who are already active in the community in other ways or have been in the past and have had to like slow down because of other things in their life. And so this allows them to open up their participation. I feel like there's a really, really solid, like we should really figure out how many people who are already active in the community or would sort of be reactivating in a way, people who we already know, already trust, like how much of a critical mass base does that build, and what does that get us? That seems like that seems like the goal of the pilot should be to figure out what critical mass can we build with what we already have before we even open up anything to the outside world, anything to other folks who we don't know yet. The second step being like, okay, who are people that are interested, but and like maybe members know, have relationships with, that sort of thing. Because that could be another thing. Is like, think about there's any number of clubs that you join where you have to have a member vouch for you. So like if somebody wants to join, they've got to know somebody, or it's easier if they know somebody. Like you can fast track if you know somebody, and then there's some sort of vetting process where Chris says, yeah, I actually know Sarah, you know, we used to work together, or like we know each other from this meetup group, that sort of thing. And it's a little different from our current setup, but it at least lowers the barrier to, I have to come in and make a brand new connection before, like in my free time when I'm already trying to just get 4 hours of good working out on a Saturday.
And everyone else is
and
too.
Everyone else is too. Like that's my concern about the like full-time key holder path right now is 30 days, and mostly people who are around on a regular enough basis where meeting 3 people is not hard. When you're here for limited amounts of time and you're here to get some work done, like that expectation has got to be different. So
there's limited amounts of
time. So I think, you know, this is just great to even talk through, but I think that's one of the big questions we've got to pose back to the community is like what kinds of interactions, what kinds of conversations, like we're just like, how do you get to know somebody? Maybe we do like once a month, we do like on a Saturday or an evening, we do like a lunch or a happy hour that is specifically for people who want to join as key holders, so that existing key holders and those folks can get to know each other. We do a couple of those a month. So it's like, it's a social thing that is separate from the work. So it's not taking you away from your work. You gotta eat lunch. You gotta have dinner anyway. It's like fit it into that.
So do you?
You know, and I'm thinking about it as an on-ramp instead of a barrier.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think the mistake here would be to think about how do we create barriers for people to get in, and it's more about how do we create on-ramps for people to get in and have an awesome experience, which includes meeting some people as quickly as possible, so that trust can form and so that everyone can feel comfortable including the new person, having a key. Because I can only imagine, literally can only imagine coming into this place, all of these people, all this stuff that's going on, be like, here's your key, and like the oh shit, they just gave me a key feeling that some people would get. Like I want, like the thing that comes out of the key holder tour isn't just the logistical thing, it's the like, hey, welcome to welcome to the club.
Welcome to the jungle.
That
Keys,
I
keys.
think it's just creating that kind of not community buy-in. I've been saying too much marketing stuff.
You're right.
Yeah, like well in like Indy school, like they have like donuts with Duberstein, who is the principal, and he gets donuts like 2 times a
We
week.
should do donuts with Duberstein.
We gotta get Duberstein.
Duberstein.
Everybody loves me. It's awesome. But then they have like that, that open house that you can go to. So like one of the things about nights and weekends is if you're attracting people who are trying to do too much with their time anyway, they might miss stuff. So it's something that's on a regular basis. But like, you know what? I missed it because my kid had a birthday party. That doesn't exclude me from ever participating in this.
We should do a monthly open house, period.
Yeah.
Like regardless of whether or not this is for nights, like
Free day.
so, like a it could even be like come in and work for the day, and then like maybe we do a lunchtime get together, and then a happy hour get together on
That'd
that
be
day.
a good day to do new member lunch, so people like see the real good
That would
shit.
solve so many of these problems.
If we
And it'd be
do,
a good thing in general.
so my sense is, I said free day, but that's not really the verbiage. I was thinking
Friday.
kind of like free. Oh yeah, right. It's FRI free.
You need to work on that pronunciation.
I look.
It's
Yeah.
making things
You and
confusing.
words.
Potato. I think of it as the public library, and the effects that the public library has, just knowing that it's an option to be able to go there. I co-worked from there a couple of times a few years ago, and while the library is beautiful to look at, it's not very habitable to be there for a very long time. But I love having the option. If people knew that they could come here just at one time, we use the analogy a lot that Indy Hall is kind of like a gym. In gyms, sometimes they'll give you some trial days and like try it out, check it out. I think it'd be cool to have that every month for one day.
Yeah, really, the worst case scenario is no one comes.
Worst case scenario is real worst case scenario is so many people come, we have to figure it out.
I think that's a great worst case scenario. I think worst case scenario of nobody coming is worse than that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean those are the two bad options, right?
Right. So there's not really a good
the thing
reason
we
not
do there,
to.
and honestly, again, thinking about like on ramps and helping people get into good rhythms, like it could be the kind of thing that you need to sign up for. Like if you like, it doesn't need to be a hard commitment, but it's like, hey, I'm planning to come in for open house, and we've got a number of spots. Maybe it's like we do 5 free spots. First come, first serve.
We should just do it like a drug who they're looking for. It's just and we need their contact info so we can be like, thanks for coming.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think this is a good idea.
I think
This is a very good idea. Excellent. Well done.
Go to Duberstein.
Good Duberstein. Duberstein days. That's amazing. Yeah, because that gives us a tool to do so many things from outreach. I mean, even when we're like, we meet people out and you're like, hey, you can come by anytime. I think it's so much more valuable to be like, hey, you should come by on this day because this thing happens. And then people put it in their calendar.
They have a deadline.
They have a deadline. That's good for everybody.
Yeah, it could be on Meetup, so it's regular.
So that's good. And then it also gives us this vehicle for once we get past an internal pilot of nights and weekends to be able to start having an on-ramp for existing community to meet with, whether you're here in the mornings, afternoons, or evenings. Like, just like make sure that overlap is happening. That day can become like a critical junction for that. And if it goes really well, it becomes the kind of thing we do a couple times a month, maybe.
Just to capitalize on this, I'm inclined to put this out. What if we just say it's every first Friday, so we stick with some nomenclature that people are already familiar with, instead of
People
trying to
already
be,
be in the area.
yeah, instead of trying to be random. We're like, on second Wednesdays of every,
Yeah.
first Friday already has that thing.
I think it's a
We
great
just
idea.
say, hey, first Friday, just come in.
And that also benefits people who maybe have to live farther out for cost reasons
Right.
to be able to have 2 things. like if they can come and see Indy Hall before they do Developers Friday stuff.
Yep. Use it as
Still
an
think
HQ.
you do In the city.
In addition to
Yep. Use this as an HQ for Old City in general, and it's the beginning of the month.
Yep.
So you got all month that you can probably get shit done. Come back.
And then once we sort of figure out how that works, I think we can introduce a Saturday or a Sunday version of that as well.
Vito Bandito.
Yeah. But I think it makes, like, the Saturday and Sunday version comes with some weird constraints in terms of building access, you know, being able to let people in and stuff like that. So let's work towards that. But I think this first step makes a lot of sense. So
I think there's also value in seeing people in the space. So if I'm working, knowing that when I'm on Slack, and then that makes me feel that makes me feel less like out of pocket, right?
Totally.
I'm trying to do something to offer. So
Yeah.
I think having it on Friday might actually benefit because it helps people feel like you're a part of your community.
And we already have weekly wins going.
Yeah.
Like,
cool. That's awesome. That's a great idea.
Most people work less here on Friday, so I feel like distractions would be less.
Maybe. Yeah, Sam's got the hardest Friday of us all.
I don't mean work less. It's just people are more conversational. I've noticed.
definitely.
Yeah.
And I like using that as an excuse to like find things like, oh, I'm just gonna grab donuts because I'm here and I see them.
Yeah.
We can use that rice cooker. No, but we can like think about like themes for our members too, so it's like interesting and fun for them as well as
Yeah, having
for
a
people
having a
coming in.
theme for it could be a lot of fun.
yeah, or like a specific sort of lunch or a bring your own
Yeah.
pizza.
Then you can come business casual. So,
You're allowed, all caps highlighted.
Mhm.
Business casual Fridays.
We permit you to come business casual.
Or in the opposite, we go formal Fridays and people show up and wearing
Fancy
gowns.
Fridays? We were doing fancy Fridays for
I
a
think
while.
most people
Well, I
do
was thinking
this
about it
dressing up
recently.
as
Definitely.
Yeah.
Do your own tattoo Friday.
Stick and poke Sundays. We'll get that. That'll be great.
Sounds gross.
Prison tattoo Friday.
I'll bring the
What,
big pens.
What else, especially from Sarah, Chris, Kevin, reactions to that stuff or things you've been thinking about or talking points? I know, Chris, I think you're here nights and weekends most often, so you have the best sense of the vibe, so to speak. It seems like it's like there's a consistent crew, but it's like calm and
Yeah, I mean, it's usually most people speak for themselves.
Yeah.
You can figure out etiquette about turning on and off the lights because it seems like every person has very, very strong opinions about which lights should be on. I think we're all passive aggressively fighting each other. But other than that, it's pretty calm.
that's good.
Also, just knowing what lights turn off, what lights.
I have a
feel like
map drawn up. I'm just lazy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I have this all like mapped down ready. I'm just lazy. I'll go do that right now.
Something that I thought of that I know hasn't been happening here, but for a little while with Night Owls, we were doing like a set Night Owls thing. So you would like go to a table like this and like everyone would just work together just so that you are actually co-working while
So
in the
you're not
co-working
like
space.
spread out all across the space.
Yeah, and it was worse when there were 2 floors because you really could get away with like not seeing anybody if you're on the top floor hidden and some of the bottom floor hidden. But I know that's almost definitely happening now because all of the people staying late sit at their desks, their black desks. So I'm curious if there's a way to just set that up so it's still you still have the community aspect of like, why would I come here and work versus anywhere else to work? So you can be around cool people, right? And I don't know if that's like a thing we can prescribe right now, but it's something I want to like keep in the air because I don't know what the answer
I think
is.
there's something. I think step one is simply just like making sure it's in all of the communication, which is like a big thing that our members in the survey, like a common theme was not wanting to be by yourself. So like the reason to be here is like it's twofold. I think there's a very real like I need to get out of my house because I'm not productive. I'm distracted. My kids are driving me crazy. Whatever it is.
TV exists.
Yeah, TV exists. Yeah. like whatever that is. The flip side of that is you're not the only one. So like, don't just come here to escape that. That's step one. Wait, step two, and the reason this is the place to do it is because there's other people. I don't think it really needs to be more heavy-handed than that. I think there's potential for there to be emergent, suggestions, or again, like Chris is like, hey, I'm going to be in the gallery working today if anybody wants to join me. I think that's all it takes is an invitation versus a prescription.
Invitation, I was just thinking like the smallest of incentive to be in one area.
Yeah, like a bowl of candy or fruit. Yeah, that works too. Fruit, people love fruit.
We're silly.
Fruits with fruiters.
Well, I mean, if the donuts were over here, you would see a lot more traffic coming over here.
Right.
So
Yeah.
like,
That is true.
That's
That
true.
natural watery flow.
over
Yeah.
here. If this space is set up for
I think that's a really good point.
Here.
I'll put a trail of donuts leading over here.
Ooh,
I think
piece of
it-
candy.
Ooh, piece of candy.
I think it's important though to have the language of welcoming who maybe do need heads down, quiet space.
Totally agree.
That's acceptable. as
Totally
well.
agree. I think that's really good.
Because there's an element of yes, participating in the community might surprise you and rewards that you reap, and I think we should definitely make that apparent.
That's the way you just said that. I would love to have a note taken down.
Say again?
Participate in the community. The results might surprise you. That's what you said. I think
Yeah, there was like they might surprise you in the rewards that you.
the rewards might surprise you. I think is is very well said. As an act of encouragement, not a requirement.
Yes, but at the same time, we understand sometimes you just need heads down time and be understanding of that. Because I think sometimes when you're joining a new community, if you feel like if you are so overstimulated by what's happening at home, it can feel like you're being a bad community member and maybe you're not as welcome if you're not as like gregarious or
For sure.
open
Yeah.
space.
And that's something that we hear all the time where someone will say, I'm not that good of a community member because I don't come to happy hour.
I'm not
Not
that
true.
good a community member.
true.
I don't like going to happy hour.
Sam, you're the worst.
Yeah, I'll just leave.
Agreed. Agreed completely.
And I think the trick to that are looking at meals and times when people naturally take a break. Because you can be heads down and eat at your desk for sure. Although I know every time I've tried to eat at my desk, I just get food on my laptop and no work done. But it can be like, of course we'll respect your time, heads down. If you want to come eat lunch with us, we're going over to, MedCart and we'll be right back.
Yeah, I think explicit invitations to an event, we can forget how important those can be.
Yep.
Especially for people that have not been socialized recently.
We know what you mean.
I was already awkwardly social before I hermited after having children.
Yeah.
So what about, on that note, things happening in the space on weekends and evenings? Because we just had a chat with the Dev Night guys about Thursday nights occasionally. Someone else was talking about it would be cool to be able to do a training or to do larger meetings on weekends and things like that.
I think the key, again, is going to go back to communication. I think having people being proactive and maybe a brief version of announcements that just goes to the key holders, so people who are likely to be here nights and weekends. Here are things happening this week after hours and on Saturday and Sunday. It could be one thing, it could be a couple of things, but things to look out for, point people in case you're wondering who to talk to. I'm thinking about both best case scenario and worst case scenario. Best case scenario is something that's going on and you're like, oh, that's cool, I would like to attend to that. Here's the person you go talk to so you can introduce yourself and say, hey, I'm an Indy Hall member, I'm here, but welcome, anything you can do to help make you and your team more comfortable, but also I would like to participate. But that's a requirement essentially of when things are happening here. It's when we don't host people, they're in our house, so to speak. Limitations around whether it's noise, or whatever, and just being able to say, hey, here's the point person you can go talk to about this event. Ask for them if something is wrong, or again, worst case scenarios I'm thinking of are like noises and messes, but maybe like somebody gets locked out, or whatever, that sort of thing. Obviously, us being the final line of defense if something is really wrong, but giving key holders the tool to know, hey, this is happening, and here's the name of a point person. So if something is up, you can say, hey, I'm looking like one of you, so and so, that sort of thing. Not that people need it, but I feel like just knowing who someone to talk to, if they're a useful tool. It'd be good for us to be keeping record, like keeping track of that, but also.
And we can be more rigorous about that daytime too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Would it ever work to put the gallery in the kitchen and like room? I know we're supposed to put on my calendar, but sometimes it's really hard to tell if there's conflicting stuff. And it would be nice if there were.
Lose your phone.
It can handle it. I have a 2-year-old. I've got insurance. But it like can be hard to tell if that means like if there's someone who can tag it or something where you can tell the whole gallery is going to be used or whether the Zoom is going to I don't know how to do that to make it synced. If we could ever figure that out, it would be amazing.
I think
It's stressful to get conflicts.
I think so. Additional Roomzilla nodes have a cost.
Oh, okay.
Both there's like a per room per month fee as well as another iPad.
Okay.
Which is fine.
We could find a new
Knowing that it's going to be used more often and we have a way to use it, as we do conference rooms, makes it easier to justify spending the money. B, that's a thing we can say, nights and weekends membership dues go towards improvements that will make stuff on nights and weekends, as well as in general, better. So that's a way of saying yes.
Or
Yes. Well, not even a maybe. I think that's a thing that makes sense with those couple of caveats. So I think yes. And I get it's a bit of a chicken and egg if people would use it more if they knew there was a consistent way to say I'm using this.
Yeah.
So I think it's.
I think if it doesn't get used, that's totally fine. But I think the difficulty with the calendar is often I can create something, but Sam or Adam has to delete it if it changes. I can't control that. And it's also hard to just look at a space and say, is the space occupied already
Yes.
at this time?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
The orientation is stuff.
Yeah.
Restaurants, they have little placards, right? This is reserved for Sarah's parties.
Yeah.
I mean, we could go low tech to start.
I've seen court spaces do little tabletoppers and say, hey, this is for this is happening from this time to this time. That could be part of the morning routine. It's like
We have stands for little
I think
placards.
that's
If I'm doing announcements, I can just make.
a couple of those cards.
I mean, now that Adobe Spark's a thing,
Right.
just get us a color printer.
So yeah, I think it's a great idea.
Not to mention, I got a tripod from Amy and Thomas's office. If we just get one of those big post-it sheets on it, we could always use that for denoting when space is being used.
Yeah.
Well, we have the whiteboard on an easel in the huddle room that I've never seen get used.
Mhm.
2 8-inch signs.
Yeah, we got lots of
Tape,
things.
body bags.
Lots of things.
Yeah.
We've got human billboards. We've got T-shirts where you can erase
I
with.
think the difficulty with that though is you just have to make sure that you're somehow sharing the information because I mean
In the space.
or applicants they need to, it's the planning, it's not the day of that I'm having so much trouble with.
Planning,
it was
yeah.
the night of, especially once like night owls was just like
Yep.
like
Yep.
everyone wanted night owl.
Yeah, I know a big part of that too is trying to find new ways to encourage people to first look at the community calendar before anything else.
Yeah.
Oddly, that's been a very difficult habit to introduce.
From the next weekend membership conversation, but a good thing to be taking into account if we're going to be inviting more activity, because those things go hand in hand. Right?
Of course.
So takeaways is we're getting close to the end of the 12 o'clock hour. We know that it's doing a monthly first Friday open house setup. I think we should detail that out a little bit more and plan for the first one. And do the
April's a good amount away because the 1st, as you know, is a Saturday.
Saturday, so we can do that. That could actually be really fun. So let's see what we got to do to make that. Let's make that happen. And it would be great for there to be an awesome mix of existing folks, people who are here different times of day, as well as be able to send out the invitation. Hey, if you want to come and work for the day, part of the day, and you're not a member yet, this is a great day to do it. By the way, there's a lunchtime gathering as well as an after-hours gathering. There's First Friday-ish stuff going on. So like, there's already a bunch of reasons to be here for some or all of that day. Let's make that happen.
3 First Fridays, we have some.
Perfect. The second thing is, I think if we put a little more structure around this is what being a nights and weekends member entails for existing members. So this is non-full-time key holders, right? Who, regardless of what other level of membership you have, or maybe even used to have, are interested in coming back, like a price point and amount of times it includes, and essentially treat it like an upgrade. Right? So if you're a basic member and you want to do nights and weekends, it's your basic membership, which still includes your day. Still includes night owls. I don't want this to override night owls. And night owls will stay its own thing. I think there's a ton of value you're having in the same way that the open house, like having night owls be its own thing, makes a ton of sense. Until at some point in the future, maybe it doesn't. But for now, it would be silly to do away with it. So separate from night owls stays included. Other nights, other weekends, how often it's included and what price point that is. And then
The application
an
process.
application process for that. So the question around that application process, that's, I think, an opportunity to brainstorm with the wider community is our current key holder process includes this step of getting to know 3 key holders. Here's the reasons we do it. Like, here's the value it creates. Here's the reason why this is harder for a nights and weekend setup. But we're looking for a new kind of ritual, open brainstorm. It can be built into this open house thing. It can be in addition to the open house thing. There's a lower barrier to entry for folks because this first batch of folks that we're looking to bring on are folks who are already in the community. So this shouldn't be a big, again, the mindset is not barrier, but on-ramp. Less, although there, to a degree, it's hoops to jump through. It's more of a, here's a way to make sure that you are comfortable here, other people are comfortable with you here, you know what you need to know, and
we know how to reach you.
You and yes, all of those things. Yeah. And adding a contact preference to the existing key holder form, and maybe even reach out to holders to see if we can update that.
I would recommend maybe asking 2 or 3, like in order, like your
Choose
first or
priority.
second.
That's a great idea.
I think we can do that on the form we have.
That makes sense. And go from there. Am I forgetting anything?
And the big items are things that we still need to sort out, but we just need to share those items with everyone.
Yeah. Cool. I feel great about that.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel great about
I'm
it.
really excited about this. This is like a long time coming.
Yeah.
Long time coming.
Yeah.
And like, not to feel bad for wrapping up on a logistical note, but on a logistical note, we can ask the building for a new batch of key cards. With that, we ask for more key cards anyway. But a new batch of key cards. We're talking about doing them in a different color for nights and weekends, folks. Because we can visually know which ones are which. So can you. We can either have them be 24/7 cards like they currently are, or we can figure out a time period where we want to have them from. There's not really an advantage to having them not work during the day because the building is open anyway. So I'm thinking about just keeping it simple and just having another batch. The thing that we did talk about is have the ability to, basically whenever we want, we can have the building pull a report of when cards were used. There's an audit trail. They don't have names, they just have numbers. We've got the correlation of name and numbers, so it'd be a little bit of work to cross-reference them. But I think it would be valuable to not that I'm interested in using it to track attendance or really track anything like that, because people can come in behind another person. It's by no means accurate, but I think it could be useful for some general patterns. So maybe we start being proactive in getting those reports once a month, cultivating them just so that we know, hey, here's roughly how many people are coming and going. Obviously, people that are already here during the day and haven't left don't show up on that, but yeah, I'm curious what would show up.
Yeah. Same. So right now, I have no idea. I have no idea.
Well, for me, I may not come in on nights very often, but I might just happen to do it, and just in case I need to. It's
Right.
like my backup.
Right.
To this thing didn't work, or it was sick, and I want to be sick.
Right. Yeah.
So,
That makes a lot of sense.
but
Yeah.
I'd also be planning events potentially. So,
And I would love to have. I would love to come in over the weekends just to hang out. To be like giving myself an opportunity to hang out with people that I don't see all. That's kind of it. Like sit and read comics that I haven't read during the week. To play video games with people that I don't get to with any
There's
frequency.
potential for it to be like a more productive living room. Which
Yeah.
is kind of the way that it is in the Nights and Stars anyway.
Yeah.
It's like a more productive living room.
We got like high couches,
Right,
all the desks
exactly,
in the world,
yeah.
multiple
you
TVs.
don't need to pay Comcast at home. We do that here.
Yeah.
And Jason doesn't have that. So good.
I know.
Really? That's so awesome.
Wow.
Cool. All right. I think we know what to do next. Great. Thank you for all the input. Everything was super useful.
This is why
Like,
I handed my
I'm so stoked on this.